this is Carrie with Fullerton Professional Organizing, and today on the podcast and my channel, my YouTube channel, we're talking about declutter and organizing our homes. And what is clutter? Clutter is to fill. The definition is to fill or cover with scattered or disordered things that impedes movement or reduces effectiveness of a room or home or space. Now, in our homes, the physical clutter is going to be the actual stuff you've got piled in drawers, closets, counters, your garage, storage units, yes, even storage units, and everywhere else. This is the typical stuff we think of. The closets that are overflowing, the garages that can't hold cards, and the storage units. Okay? Why pay for a storage unit when you probably just need to let go of some things that you are not using? Okay? That is the brutal part about this whole thing. But clutter can also be gifts that you receive that you never used or will never use, just hanging around just because you don't want to hurt someone's feelings. Or it can be expensive items we've purchased, like treadmills, you thought you would use, you no longer use, or you should be using. I should be using my treadmill. I'm an organizer, and I also struggle with letting things go. I'm normal, but I'm not attached to your things, so it's easier for me to help you. But I have to admit, my house is organized, but I do have a few things that it's very hard for me to let go of, like my treadmill. I keep starting on my treadmill and quitting, starting and quitting. And to be honest, it's been quite a few years before I've used my treadmill, but I am going to try to use my treadmill here really soon, okay? Or I'm going to make a decision to get rid of it. Let's just, if I don't use it this year, I am getting rid of it next year. Or maybe I should do be even tougher on myself. If I don't start using that treadmill in the next 6 months, then I'm going to get rid of it. All right, that's a challenge for me and for you. All right, but there are also beauty products that we spend a lot of money on that just didn't work or we just don't use, kitchen appliances that we thought we would use, cleaning products and cleaning tools that we thought we would use, and then they just never were used. And because we spent so much money on them, we keep hanging on to them, thinking that we will eventually use them. Hobbies. As you can see, I have a craft room, but luckily for me, I do use this craft room. I do crafts. I do my organizing videos. I also sew. I have a friend I'm doing a little sewing project for as soon as I get through with this video. I'm going to help her out. But hobbies, fixer-up projects, crafts, sports, unfinished furniture that we are going to refinish someday, holiday decor that we're going to decorate with someday, home decor that we used to decorate with and no longer, old cars, old car parts, old computers and old computer parts, outdated technology. These are all things that we struggle with hanging on to. Now, there are also things that are clutter that you do use, but they're clutter because you don't have a designated spot for them. So you just put them here and put them there. If we declutter the things that we don't use and don't want, we can put the things in that have no designated spot, and we can get those a home. There's old reading material. There's bargains and freebies that we acquire, things that are given to us, or we go to McDonald's and we get those little free things in our Happy Meals, and then our kids play with it that day and then they never play with it again. Those are things that we can declutter. Although there's the bargains and the freebies that we don't need, but there's also the fun clutter, which will tie into family clutter. Now, there are other family members in your home that you will not be able to declutter. You can't force your husband to get rid of things he doesn't want to get rid of. It just doesn't work. You can only get yourself and your family organized and hope that he eventually follows along, but you can't fix the other family members. You can only train your children and retrain them, and make things better. But there are also other types of clutter: sentimental clutter, memorabilia, track tapes, cassette tapes, VHS videos, floppy disks, CDs, baby items, and baby clothes. These are all things that remind us of when we started this, or when we first did this, our first time doing anything. These are all reminders. Well, some of these items we can let go. Okay. Now, I'm not the type of organizer that comes into your home and forces you to get rid of everything, but there is something to decluttering so that you can have room for the things that you really use. And there is, if there's a need for space, then there's a need to declutter. But there's also emotional and mental clutter. The stuff you're holding on to in your heart from past hurts, failures, and yes, like I mentioned, the memorabilia, fun times. These types of clutter consist of negative patterns and beliefs you don't even realize that you're carrying around, and you can include can't statements like, I can't lose weight, I can't quit my job and own my own business. This would be your fears, your to-do lists, what's going on in the news, or anything else that's filling your head at night. Your past relationships, painful memories. I used to be poor memories. Just in case items are your bargain stash and your freebie stash. Now, do you need them, or are you holding on to this stuff because of fear? Your past and future identity is also mental clutter. Who I used to be or who I hope to be in the future. Your skinny clothes, your fat clothes, first time marriage, your first, from when you were divorced and you still have all those memories. It'll be worth something someday. A lot of people hold on to stuff because they just might be worth something someday, and you might just get rich someday off of an item that you held on to. There's also social clutter. Yes, our social life can be clutter as well. If we have way too many activities and way too many social media, and we spend too much time on social media, these can be problems too. If you don't have time to keep your house tidy because you're always out and about doing things for other people. I'm not saying that helping others and doing things for others, that's one thing I'm doing today, is I'm helping a friend. Those are all great things, but if we can't say no ever, then our calendar activities, there may be too many social activities. you know, only you know how much is too much. Now, digital clutter is another area, having thousands of unread emails in your inbox. When you have digital clutter, it's also all the files saved on your computer without file names. Now, I sometimes have issues with that. I've saved things trying to figure out how to do something digitally and wind up saving things several times. And finally, when I figured out what I'm doing, I will get that item named so I can find it again. But then I have all these others that I saved before it that didn't have names, and not knowing which ones I've edited and which ones I haven't edited. You know, for me, I have a lot of digital clutter because I'm not techie, and there's probably a few of you out there that are like me that just aren't techie. I spent a whole week just trying to figure out how to do these podcasts. I've spent lots of time trying to figure out how to do YouTube. I figured I've had to spend a lot of extra time on the techie stuff because I just don't know how to do it. Now, my husband does. He is super ultra techie, but I can't every minute of every day keep going to him and saying, help me with this, help me with that. This is what he does all day. He's the IT at his work for several newspapers. So this is something that he does every day, and I don't always want to constantly, and it would be, it took me forever just to learn how to use the remotes on my TV now that everything has a million different remotes and there's a million different things on your TV. So I get the digital, but nevertheless, it's all those files saved on your computer without those file names, so you don't know what they are, and you spend a lot of time looking for the files that you do want. And then I already covered spiritual or faith clutter. That is a whole nother 30-minute talk. I'm just going to say this briefly on this YouTube. The stuff that attaches itself to us, usually unknowingly, that needs to be removed, like the lack of forgiveness or bitterness or anger, anything that causes a lack of peace in your life, anything keeping you from growing in the wisdom and knowledge and understanding of who God is, anything that impedes your movement towards a relationship with God, and anything that reduces the effectiveness of God in your life. Now, that I have a whole another video talking about that topic if you are interested in some scriptures that deal with that. But those are all things that are clutter. Now, here are a few solutions: decluttering, organizing, and maintaining. Start with the trash. And if you have a very overwhelmingly disorganized home, now you're going to have to start in a very small space like a drawer. Okay. One small drawer a day, one small shelf a day, one cabinet a day, one closet a day. You can do baby steps to declutter your home if your whole home needs to be decluttered. So that's a whole different thing. But if you just want to declutter your home and you have a regular, home, it's not overly decluttered, this is where I start. I start with any trash. Let's say your kids' bedrooms. You know how they are. Sometimes the trash doesn't make it into the trash can. So, or if they're eating in the living room, sometimes they may not throw their trash away. Now, of course, it would be ideal if we started them young and they actually listened and obeyed and did all of this on their own. But you know how that is. It's just not the way a typical home runs. So you start with the trash in any area, any room, because you know that that needs to be thrown out. So you know that's already gonna, clean up your space. Then you want to tackle any dirty items, dirty dishes, dirty clothes. If it's in the garage, it would be any dirty tools, that need to be cleaned up, taken somewhere else, moved somewhere else. Okay, so that's obvious items that you've taken care of, trash and obvious items. Now, what I do that I find helpful for me is I get a basket and I go in a room and put everything that's on the flat surfaces. Everything on the flat surfaces goes into the basket, including the stuff on the floor. Then I can, one by one, take each item out of the basket and put it away. You already see some progress with the trash being thrown out. You already see some progress with the things that do not belong in that room taken out. And now you've taken everything off of the flat surfaces. Now your room absolutely appears to be decluttered already. So now you're just going to declutter one item at a time from the basket. Now, if you have, going back to what I said before, you have a very, very, very decluttered space, then you're going to use that basket to do one surface at a time if it has more than one basket full of items that if you find that you're having to fill several baskets with items, then you're going to still take one basket at a time and declutter. Declutter each basket. Try to sort and categorize as you go. That means several baskets, possibly. You're going to put all the items from any flat surface in a basket. If you have an overwhelming amount of stuff, you're going to use several baskets and try to declutter as you go. That's a donation bag and then your trash bag. And then when you get to the basket, you're going to declutter each basket. Donation, maybe some other things that you decided were trash that weren't completely obvious at the time, and sort and categorize as you go. All right, if you can. Then you're going to sort and categorize all the items that are left that need to go in that space or that room. You're going to measure shelves, measure drawers. If you need bins, purchase bins, and then you're going to give everything a home in that space. And you can purchase bins and organizational systems like shelves if needed, but you can also use shoe boxes. When my first year of marriage, that's what I used. I used shoe boxes and any boxes that would fit in the space. And you can use boxes, food containers, and jars from around your home. Don't necessarily have to go out and spend a lot of money. All right, now maintaining. You must repeat the above consistently. This can be daily, weekly, monthly, or seasonally. It's up to you. It's your comfort level. Now, here's another way. Once you have organized your space, take a picture and come back to the picture later, and you'll be surprised at the things you noticed in that picture that still are clutter. Pictures are amazing at discovering the clutter that you have in your space. This will enable you to see your environment in the same light as your guests do, leaving you shocked probably by the result. If you have trouble finding clutter, try taking photos from different angles. Photographs provide an entirely different perspective, and potential problems could pop out of the picture, helping you quickly identify the areas that need to be tidied up. All right, guys, that is what I have for you today on this podcast. This is part 2 of my decluttering your faith, decluttering your home, and my next podcast will tackle decluttering your business and your office. That one is a little bit trickier because, again, I am not super great at the decluttering the digital, but we're going to talk all about that on our next podcast. So stay tuned for the next podcast. I appreciate you, and I am so glad you're here.